Hello, my name is Rahul. I'm a translator and I translate from Spanish and Portuguese into English. I'm a literary translator, which means that I translate mostly literature, meaning books, stories, and sometimes even poems. This is the first of 6 videos for the Stephen Spender Trust, in which I'll be guiding you through some simple translation activities that will help you to translate a poem and enter into the Stephen Spender Prize. In case you haven't heard about the prize yet, the Stephen Spender Prize is an annual poetry translation prize. Entries for this year are open until the 17th of July. All you have to do to enter is find a poem in any language that is 60 lines or less, translate it, and write a commentary of 300 words or less. You can find much more information here on the website, the Stephen Spender Trust. If you just Google Stephen Spender Trust, you'll find it here. So there are 4 categories for 14 and under, 16 and under, 18 and under, and then the adult category. There's loads of other resources and information here on the website if you need it. We have also created a bunch of resources specifically aimed at school children and at primary age children, which you can find here on the Multilingual Creativity website, multilingualcreativity.org.uk/resources. And if you click on that, you can have a look. In particular, there's one booklet that are really useful for these videos, and that is the Suggested Poems resources. If you click on that link, you'll find a special page for primary school pupils. And the poem that we're going to be looking at in these videos is taken from that booklet. So, on we go. In this video, we're going to be looking at translating your title. Now, you all know probably the titles can be a really good way of catching people's attention, making someone interested straight away in something, whether it's a book or a film or anything like that. So let's look at how we can make your translation have an exciting title. Now, in these videos, we're going to be looking at a poem from the book that I mentioned, the primary school booklet. And this poem is called Pegasos, Lindos Pegasos, and it's a Spanish poem by a Spanish poet called Antonio Machado, and here's a nice picture of Antonio. So let's take the title of this poem and have a look at it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look up the 3 words of the title. Pegasos, Lindos, Pegasos. Helpfully, 2 of those words are the same words, so I only need to look up 2 words. Now, there are lots of dictionaries out there on the internet, but I'm going to recommend 2 to you. Most of the time, I think you should be using this dictionary, the Cambridge English to Spanish Dictionary. It's not too easy and it's not too complicated either. Some of the words you look up may not be in there, in which case I recommend wordreference.com. This is a far more detailed dictionary. As you can see, it has many languages, but we're obviously just going to be using Spanish to English. So I'm going to look up the first word here because I checked earlier and I couldn't find it in the Cambridge one. Pegaso, which means Pegasus. So whether we know what that means or not, we're going to just remember Pegasus. Then I'm going to look up lindo, or lindos, but lindo, in this second one. And it means cute, pretty, lovely. I'm going to go with lovely because I think that's a very nice word. So let's go back to our poem now. So we've got the poem here. We've taken out the title, Pegasos, Lindos, Pegasos, and we've started our first translation of the title. Pegasuses, lovely Pegasuses. Now, I'm not too happy with that. First of all, Pegasuses just sounds really clunky and weird. And what even is a Pegasus? So when I'm translating for work, sometimes if I can't figure out something straight away, I'll look on Google Images. So I did that for this one because it helped me to clarify what am I trying to describe in my translation. And this is what a Pegasus is. So it's a Greek an animal, a monster, or a kind of fantastic beast from Greek mythology that is a mixture of a horse and, well, it's a horse with wings, okay? Now, is that what this poem is really about? Is it about Greek mythology and real flying horses? So what I had to do is I had to read the first 2 lines of the poem to get me an idea of what it was really about. And I looked at this second line, and it says, Caballitos de madera, which means little wooden horses, right? So I did a bit more Googling, and then I realized that this is what the poem is about. It's not about mythological horses, but wooden horses, the kind of wooden horses you would ride on a carousel at a fairground. Okay, so there we go. We understand our poem a little bit better. So I'm not gonna explain in the title that this is in a fairground, but I'm not gonna use that word Pegasus either because I think it's just a bit First of all, a lot of people just won't understand what it is. And second of all, in the plural form, so not one Pegasus, but lots of Pegasuses, it sounds very ugly. So I'm going to try something else. A Pegasus is a flying horse, so why not try this? Flying horses, lovely flying horses. So it's still very poetic. It still describes what a Pegasus is, but it doesn't use this very, I don't think, very, I don't know, poetic sounding word. So there you go. Pegasus is, oh, sorry, flying horses, lovely flying horses. So, titles. When you're translating your title, remember firstly that the title should catch the reader's attention. Secondly, it can be very different from the original. Thirdly, make sure you repeat the poem because that could help you make your mind up. And don't feel that you have to stick literally to the title. Remember that lots of things change in translation, even the names of the characters. Okay? That's an important point which I'll come back to. Finally, you must remember that although you will probably want to translate your title before you translate your poem, it's very likely that after you've translated your poem, you might want to come back and change the title. So whatever you decide doesn't have to be a final decision. Now, I want to make a really important point for this and for all the other parts of this video series. Be creative when you're translating and don't feel like you have to always stay close to the original. Remember, many of the books that you have read that may be translated from another language, or many of the books you know in English that are translated into other languages, will change the titles and even the names of the characters. Don't believe me? Well, have a look at these two examples. Some of you may remember the book The Tiger Who Came to Tea. Okay, and the character in The Tiger Who Came to Tea is called Sophie. Now, you might think that in any translation of this book into another language, and there have been dozens of translations of this book, they might keep that name Sophie. In fact, that's not true, because in the Welsh version, she is called Catherine. And I bet you that in the Spanish or Arabic or Urdu versions of this book, they change her name to a name that's more common in that language or in that culture. It works the other way around too. Some of you may know Tintin, the Tintin books. The Tintin books are originally written in French. And for example, this character, Professeur Tournesol in French, his name means Professor Sunflower in the original language. Whereas in English, it's Professor Calculus, which has nothing to do with the original meaning, but it still works really well in English. So be bold and don't be afraid to make creative decisions. See you in the next video.